So just one other thing. Well, yeah, maybe I'll leave it at that. Those are the two main things that I think. Stuart.
Well, thanks very much, Arthur. You started off by talking about how it was really quaint to see people reading paper-based newspapers in Australia, and it's a wonderful reminder that in so many ways we're 10 years behind the States in almost everything that we do, and your presentation reminds us that we are in this area of social enterprise as well. So there are three parts to my question. The first is, so much of what you're talking about, only at the later stages do you talk about engagement with federal, with government funding. You pointed out that you've been working hard at this work for 10 years before you got anything out of the feds. So it's the age-old story. What have you got to tell us about the fact that we sit here and obsess about our relations with government, and yet there is a whole other world out there? Government, despite this country being a fairly heavily public sector oriented country, 26% of GDP is public sector. There's, we are not unusual insofar as there's a whole world out there. There's a whole world out there that we rarely tap from the point of view of funding and serious engagement. So what have you got to tell us about, from having observed us as an anthropological tribe here, what have you got to tell us about what we're missing in terms of that? The second thing is, I want to know from Denise and from you, what is the partnership that the CCI is developing with you? Where are we going to take this? What are our aims, objectives and milestones over the next few years? Because if we don't cement our relationship with you, we'd be absolutely crazy. And the third is, where's that incredibly awesome Prezi presentation software, and can we get some of it and stop boring each other shitless with PowerPoint? Thank you.
Yeah, I'll answer the third one first. This one. Prezi's free. It's an amazing startup. I don't think they're based in Silicon Valley, but you just you have to have a pretty fast connection, and you build it all in this kind of flash-based environment. You zoom in and out. Super easy to use, really fun. The other thing that I did like about Prezi is I didn't have to align my thinking linearly as I was putting this together over the last couple of weeks. I was able to go drop a few ideas in, leave them there till I came back, go and add some more to it. So Prezi, it's free. It's the best service. You can buy the paid one, and then it allows you to get rid of their little logo, and it allows you some special opportunities to. I don't know exactly. I'm not one for buying things.
Maybe you can run a workshop for us. It costs $5 a month, $5 US a month.
There you go.
And if you'd like to look at YouTube, the Ipswich study has a wonderful Prezi online.
Nice.
That we put together.
Great. Yeah.
I just downloaded it while you were talking. Yes. It's like $159 for a year subscription, or free through another thing.
Yeah. So I did have a lot of trouble in the hotel because I was trying to upload a video to my Prezi, and took a shower and I came back because I don't have the desktop version. I just have the online one. Objectives for the partnership, I think maybe we can open that up to some brainstorming, but I'd like to address the government relations thing because I didn't look at the kind of per capita spending and those sorts of things. I looked at a lot of numbers, kind of comparing California to Australia, comparing the US to Australia, looking at statistics, and the general feeling for me is that you have a much more established cycle of government relations with research, and that the work you are doing is actually very impactful because it fits into that cycle, as we were talking about press releases earlier and those sorts of things. So, it's almost like, well, don't do anything because it's working. I think the piece that's happened in the US over time is we've gotten a lot of billionaires. We've gotten a lot of people who've made a lot of money. And as soon as somebody gets past a certain point, then they go, oh, well, I don't need this. My grandchildren's grandchildren aren't going to need this. Let's make a foundation. So a lot of US work in the public sector is built on foundation money. the steel money, the auto industry money, the Microsoft money, and those sorts of things. So there is this other balloon of funds that probably you don't have access to here. So one recommendation would be to go global and get into some of those funds that are being offered by George Soros or the Clinton Global Initiative or those kinds of things. And then the other one, of course, would be to just do what the mobile users are doing in Africa and forget the desktop and go directly to social innovation, go directly towards funding this stuff by creating a for-profit piece in there where you can earn some of the money. You might not be able to earn enough for the whole program, but you might be able to earn a third of it that way and then reduce the government imprint on the project and then get some of it from the foundations. That's what we're aiming to do. And I wouldn't say we're 10 years ahead by any means. I mean, I think we're probably, the rate of change, we're probably 18 months ahead. I bet if I came back in a year, you guys would already be like, yeah, I know what you're talking about, the newspapers are gone. You know, I don't know if it'll happen that quickly, but just things have changed a lot. We have a local, I don't want to digress too much, we have a local paper in San Francisco that's dedicated to journalistic arts, and they're publishing and they're charging $1 and they're at the coffee shops and they come out only once a week. But the articles are about poverty in San Francisco, and they're about, you know, where they're putting in parks and things that are actually relevant to me. And so they're turning journalism back into a micro enterprise. I think that's important. And then objectives for partnerships?
Yeah.
What do you guys think?
It was always designed to grow as a partnership. And partly one of the reasons for Arthur being here today is to get buy-in from people across CCI and to get a sense for people of how interesting it is for us across the different things we're working on. So, as well as talking to Arthur, I went to Washington and talked to Daniel Colaco, who's the Director of International Operations, and that extends to...
Yeah, I'm sorry, I didn't mention global. We have a whole entity called One Global Economy. It was a separate nonprofit. It came under our nonprofit, and we've been doing work in Sub-Saharan Africa, in Turkey, the Middle East, a little bit in India and Mexico. So there's that whole piece where I think there's a nice connection point. I didn't go into it because it's not really in my vision. So.
But we talked about bringing One Economy to Australia, in effect, and also Australia as a gateway to Southeast Asia and initiatives there. And across our universities, we all have, I think, research nodes in Southeast Asia or bases. Certainly RMIT does in Vietnam. I think that would be of great interest to One Economy. Things like the Games Lab that we're building, I'm sure there are equivalent in the other universities. So it's bigger than a linkage, which is what we started talking about initially. And I know that David Mackenzie here and Arthur have started cooking up a scheme of some sort. I haven't heard what it is yet.
I was going to say, Arthur's coming here to talk this morning, but I actually said, look, we've got to stay 2 weeks. And the thinking behind that was to allow time for various people to look up and see opportunities and make things happen. Now, I'm not going to talk about particularly thing that is bumping around in my brain that hopefully will become a project. I know it's necessary to put things together. So there is an opportunity where to talk to Arthur, to do it online, if some ideas come to mind, and that's what we hope will happen, and that we'll have a sort of a longer-term partnership, such as we've had with some of the other organisations that are doing with youth work. Long-term partnerships are very productive and creative. And I think this is a sort of a way of going a bit international. For us it is. And I think also, talking to Arthur, they've done some amazing things and they've drawn on research, but not actually done research and development. So one of the things I've been talking about is, well, what about bringing the US and ourselves and others into the sort of process from the beginning of some of these new ideas? We'd like to do that. So buying in on it in a different way, in the long term way. So it's really up to the people here to get stuck into it.
Maybe in the short term, I think it would be good to have some conversations around the MBA, around broadband and what it means in Australia and what the direct comparisons might be for terms of use. We haven't really had questions yet, and we're running out of time. How much time have we got? Maybe 2 minutes. Yeah. Any other comments or questions? Yeah. Okay.
Just a comment. I absolutely love the experimental thinking. I think this is a fantastic way forward in terms of developing social innovation programs where the main benefit, this looks like to me, is that it's starting at a very local community level. You're seeing what works, it works, replicated, if it doesn't, you move on to the next one, doing multiple things at once. And I think that is something that, as an experimental social scientist, I'm very excited to see.
Question over here.
My name is Andrew Sterling, actually, one of my students has just completed a doctoral thesis on the issue of connectivity. We've heard a lot about that from the point of view of, the laying down the cables, bringing the pipes to the NBN, but this is all around. So it's from a law perspective. So connectivity really of individuals and communities. I guess based on innovation theory and I guess really theory, so we kind of combined it. But just in your presentation, do we actually, where I think it really most used in Australia is, I guess, in the regional areas where the NBN is really doing well that first up. I mean, we've actually got broadband in the cities, but I feel weird that places like Tasmania, we've had a premier who's actually done an IT guy. So what they actually do is put broadband into like 7 kind of very remote areas. The reality is what they haven't had, the same thing in Queensland where NBN is big for these remote areas. There's actually really no one there in those communities who can help people, sort of understand what to do with it. So they're getting the boxes inside the house. So for example, I was giving an example of a place down the road, Tasmania, it's about 30 kilometres from Hobart Centre, doing a great point. Nice little community. It's exactly the exact opposite of where you expect there to be, certain kind of companies. Probably, somebody's house doesn't be there. Everybody, the data center has got one sort of, it's got one corner shop and a efficiency under anything like that, don't value. It's almost really, and I just kind of harken back to what my students did the thesis on, so this is the issues that we've been working through. It's no use just talking about it in the end. We've really got to work out ways of enabling people to use it. In these relatively isolated places like Tasmania, you've got nevertheless a lot of really creative people, a lot of really interesting stuff that happen in the communities. So in order to make it back in this place where I'm just pretty amazed that the years ago has been invested directly in real money by the government. I actually do place that normally helping to develop policy in this area, but I actually think there has been this amazing disconnect. It's almost as if we're just waiting for people are getting the box on the side of the house. At some point in time, the KTV companies are going to come along and just go through the dance will do. There's no more thinking about it now. So what I actually think seriously is that what you're describing would potentially have great applications for it. We can research from many different perspectives. We're looking at things from innovation and I guess really from almost like a human rights kind of perspective, distributed innovation. And you get a small population of a vast area in Australia. Tasmania is a microcosm of that, states like Queensland really exemplify those things. I don't know, I think that there's potential, and I think it would be great to actually start with that way of engaging with you to be aware of it, actually exactly how to introduce this aspect.
I think one thing that's interesting about, because I have been reading about this and learning about it from David and Denise in conversations, because we're in Washington, we were able to get in on the initial conversations in 2008, 2009, prior to the FCC studies and those sorts of things, where we arrived at the same conclusion. So it's just interesting to note that we are arriving at that same conclusion that you can't just bring the lines.
Look, I think our next session will pick up on many of the themes that we've talked about, and people are probably ready for a cup of coffee. So let's say thank you very much.
Yeah, thank you.
We are actually creating a little coffee break. It's a little bit different than the program because what was going to be a late start today, and we actually had an early session. So yeah, there is a break now. Please get and grab a coffee. There's not full morning tea service, but grab a coffee and we'll be back in 10 minutes. Okay?
Yeah.